Hi, guys. Good evening. Welcome back once again to the Edward. I'm your host, Eddie, and in tonight's video, I'll be doing my review for the latest episode of AMC's The Walking Dead, which premiered earlier tonight. I just got done watching it, and we got a lot to talk about. Before I begin, of course, please be warned that this is a spoiler-filled review, much like most of my TV reviews here, especially for shows like The Walking Dead. So this is a spoiler-filled review. We're going to be getting into a lot of specific plot points here regarding this episode. So if you're not caught up on The Walking Dead by this episode or the past couple episodes, do not keep watching or listening, as I will be going into spoilers. So you have been warned. That being said, I felt like this episode, it was good. It was very, very good. It felt like a very character-driven episode, which was great. That was one of the things that made it so good. And this was like an episode consisted of duos. And what I mean by that is we had Rick and Morgan, Morgan and Carol, and Jadis and Negan. It's like we had all these separate little stories going on simultaneously. And even though one character was a part of the same duo, Rick and Morgan and then Morgan and Carol, we got to see him act differently with two individual people. And what I liked about this episode is that, we find out what makes Morgan and Carol so alike yet so different at the same time. And I loved the analogy, or not the analogy, but I loved how Morgan said it. He said he described Carol as someone who saves people, and he's the kind of person who just watches them die, which isn't necessarily true because he's saved many people, he's saved many lives, and he's also taken many lives. But he does seem to have the unpleasant disposition of watching people meet horrible, horrible deaths. And he's kind of got a point there if you think about it. Because if you look back at his history throughout the show here, he unfortunately has witnessed some truly horrific things happen to a lot of people that he's cared about. He's kind of become a witness to death. And I think that's partly why he's slipping. He's slipping in and out of reality, which can be very, very dangerous. But it also does make him kind of an efficient killing machine, which is what he and Rick use to their advantage. And this was another interesting episode where this episode, in a bizarre way, Negan was way more trustworthy than Rick. Rick promised, and I thought he was going to keep his word like he usually does. He promised the saviors who were holding him captive that we'll take you back to the hilltop to help your amputated buddies, and you can all start fresh, start new with us. And you don't really have a lot of choice because a walker herd is coming. Jared, of course, was the only prick who's really being stubborn about it, because I think of all those men in that little mini group of saviors, Jared was the worst one, the worst tempered and just the nastiest of them all too, because the rest of them seemed like pretty mild-mannered guys for the most part. But unfortunately, that didn't last long because a few of them were taken out by walkers. And then after freeing and helping Rick and Morgan, and one savior even going so far as to saving Rick's life by shooting a walker that was about to bite him, Rick plunges his hatchet into the guy's neck. And then Morgan stabs two or three of them with his walking stick. And it's like, damn, dude. Talk about a dick move. I mean, they just pulled like a big-time double cross there. And Rick broke his promise. He broke his word, and usually his word is his bond, even to his enemies or people who could be his enemies. And in this episode, Negan said he wasn't going to do something, and he kept his word. He didn't do it. He didn't burn Jadis's pictures, and once he was free, as he walked up to her, I really thought for a second there he was going to whack her silly with Lucille, like he was really going to pound her head in. But he just left her there and walked away. Walked away like nothing happened. I think he walked away more curious and intrigued than he did angry, because now he's seen this helicopter, and I think a part of him really does, in a weird way, feel bad about Simon murdering all of her people, because Negan is not a wasteful man. And I think he's right. He wouldn't just kill everybody just for the sake of killing them, not unless he had good reason to. So, I think a part of him really did feel bad, but I think he's also curious as to what the hell is the story with this helicopter, and what does Jadis know about it, and what's her story too. And this episode, it was kind of distracting because even though I was enjoying what was going on with these individual characters, I was trying to figure out what exactly was Jadis trying to do with Negan, and this is what I came to. This is the conclusion I came to. She was going to leave him there, tied up out in the open, and put Lucille in the wheelbarrow, set it on fire, and then use a flare to signal the helicopter that she knew was coming because she kept periodically kept looking at her watch as if checking the time to see if it was on schedule or not. And clearly it was. I think it was. And so she was going to leave Negan there, burn Lucille, and while Lucille is burning and he's tied up and he can't do anything, she pushes the walker out in the cart just to antagonize him, and then she hitches a ride on the helicopter, and they leave, and she just leaves him there out in the open to starve to death or something, or have the walker break free from the cart and crawl towards him or something like that. I don't know. But none of that happened because he got loose. He broke into her luggage nearby, got her gun, got her photos, was able to threaten her, and you know how the rest went. But it was just, I just thought this whole episode was very interesting because this might have been the most sincere we have ever seen Negan, where he reveals the backstory to Lucille's name. It was his wife. His wife's name was Lucille. And naming the bat after his wife is the only thing he has left to remember his wife by. Nothing else. Kind of like how Jadis has nothing left except these photographs that she took. And we couldn't tell what the photographs were, but it was most likely photos of her and her people, her fellow heapsters, I guess. And this was just such an interesting episode where Negan showed way more sincerity than Rick did with the Saviors. I mean, for good reason, too. I understand why Rick did what he did. I'm just shocked that he did it. But again, I think this is just one of the many things of the aftermath of his son dying. That Rick's still in a very dark place, a murderous state of mind, where it's like, kill or be killed, and especially a rule that applies to the Saviors. But I don't think he'll stay there for long. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, Rick, you are really disrespecting your son's memory right now. And I wonder if that's why he felt bad towards the end of the episode, and that's why he couldn't bring himself to read his son's letter until after killing the Saviors. Maybe he couldn't do it when reading the letter, but he can only do it afterwards, if that makes sense. I don't know, it was a very interesting episode for Rick, but it was more interesting for Morgan and Carol, and of course Negan and Jadis. And like Negan, I'm very curious as to what the hell is going on with Jadis and what the story is with the helicopter, and are we going to learn more about it? Like, how did Jadis know it was coming? And like, has it always come to the heaps and the Jadis and her people never did anything about it? Like, what is the deal? And what was her original plan with Negan too? I'm just very curious. But what I'm also curious about is who the hell Negan picked up on his way back to the sanctuary, and I've got a theory about that. I think it is most likely Laura. And to give you guys an idea of to remind you who Laura is the Savior who shot Dwight in the shoulder when he suddenly turned and gunned down his fellow Saviors when they were ambushed by the Allies back in the mid-season finale. After they flee Alexandria and they come to that roadblock, they come under attack, and then Dwight eventually shoots his fellow Saviors, and then Laura shoots him in the shoulder when she realizes he's the one who betrayed them and gave all their secrets to their enemies. But then we see her chased off, and we haven't seen her since. We don't know what's become of her. So I think she very well could be the one Negan picked up. It could be someone else, but I personally think it's Laura. Now the question will be, will Laura tell Negan about Dwight's betrayal, and how will Negan react to it? Or will he be more focused on taking out Simon instead? And it seems like he wants to do it very stealth-like. If he told his men when he arrived at the gate that he didn't want anybody to know that he had returned. So we'll see. Also, one more quick thought. Last week's episode was written by, was one of the people who wrote it was Angela Kang, who we all know, she will be the new showrunner for the series starting next year with season 9. Scott M. Gimple, as you all may or may not be aware of, has been promoted to Chief Content Officer for Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. So congratulations, Mr. Gimple. He'll be overseeing both shows and the future of the franchise. So Angela Kang will be the showrunner, and she has written some amazing episodes, and last week's episode was pretty damn amazing, so I think she is a perfect choice for the job. So congratulations, Miss Kang. So yeah, overall, good episode, very good episode. It was also a pleasant reminder that walkers are still very much out there and still very much a threat to the living, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. Speaking of bad guy, one more final thought. Oh, it was satisfying to watch Jared die. I have been waiting for this prick to die for so long, and I was kind of hoping Henry would do it, but it's nice that Morgan, it's fitting that Morgan would be the one who would be responsible for his death. Being eaten alive by walkers, that's a horrible way to die, and that's exactly what he deserved, because he was a prick from the moment we met him, and I was looking forward to seeing that smug smile wiped off his face, and in this case, it was peeled off his face as he was eaten alive. So, good riddance, Jared. Bye-bye. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the night. What did you think of tonight's episode? Feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions and your feedback down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear from everybody. Don't forget, we have 2 episodes left. We have next week's episode, and the episode after that is the big season finale. We're not going to want to miss it, so stay tuned for that. Have a great night. Thank you for watching, and of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.